Ellis. Witnesses and experts presented testimony on the state's mishandling of the November 3rd general election. Witnesses who worked at the polls noticed improper procedures in vote handling, and experts spoke about the hackability of voting machines. Others examined the possibilities of how votes were electronically manipulated to ensure a win for Joe Biden. Lawmakers are urging their colleagues to withhold the state's 11 electoral college votes. Arizona State Congressman Mark Finchem told reporters that they hope to have a resolution within the next 24 to 48 hours. A cybersecurity expert told the hearing that the Democratic Party of Pima County allegedly embedded 35,000 fake votes for every Democratic candidate. He previously testified at a Pennsylvania hearing.
Up these machines.
Cybersecurity expert and retired Army Colonel Phil Waldron testified in front of members of the Arizona State Legislature on Monday. Colonel Waldron presented an analysis of data that shows a vote spike on Election Day shortly after counting started.
Arizona was a little bit different. It had a pretty strong rise right up at the front, the first part of voting day, whereas the other states, and I can show you those, have a gradual increase in votes. But this injection spike at 8:06:40 p.m., and this is adjusted from Zulu time, so this is 143,100 votes that were injected. That was in excess of what the machines could have processed.
He presented an email sent on November 10th from an anonymous individual claiming to have witnessed a detailed plan to embed 35,000 fraud votes to each Democrat candidate's total votes while at a Pima County Democratic Party meeting in September. The source sent the email to the Criminal Division of the Department of Justice and all members of the Arizona legislature.
It says that please be advised that Pima County Recorder and the Democratic Party added fraud votes in the initial count to the vote by mail totals released at 8 p.m. on November 3rd, 2020. So this coincides with what we observed in the data analytics at that spike. We weren't aware of this until after the fact. So there were approximately 35,000 fraud votes added to each Democratic candidate's vote totals.
According to this individual, who appeared to be an IT specialist in Pima County, the 35,000 votes were embedded in a spread-configured distribution and auto-adjusted to the real voter turnout. The fraud votes applied to both local and federal election candidates.
They were distributed based on the voter turnout carefully so they wouldn't look suspicious.
That's correct. They move the algorithms around to different precincts until they get the aggregate number that they want and need, and then they shift the algorithms to other precincts.
Did the Democratic candidates who got the benefit of those 35,000 false votes include Biden and Harris?
According to this email, it was all local and federal races.
So if that were true, then the result of the election is totally opposite the one that they're so anxious to certify.
Colonel Waldron clarified that he hopes this anonymous individual would come forward and issue it as an affidavit, but as of now, the state legislature has been unable to identify the individual. He added that this allegation can potentially be proven through a full forensic audit of the machines used in Pima County.
Congressman Paul Gosar, alongside Arizona lawmakers, gave us their reactions to the hearing. For one, Gosar says this is a bipartisan issue and every lawmaker should be on guard.
At a press conference during the Arizona election hearing, Republican Arizona Congressman Paul Gosar says this election issue should
Be honest, do you really want to watch a video that looks like this? There's a good reason why presenters use
concern everyone.
This is not even a partisan issue. This is a bipartisan issue. In fact, one of my colleagues, a very liberal member from Maryland, Jamie Raskin, sits on government oversight, has actually introduced legislation because he was so concerned about the corruptibility in the 2016 election in regards to Russia. Bingo! So we ought to be doing this across the board for transparency to the American public.
Mark Finchem, a Republican Arizona state representative, says the problem is all about the chain of custody of ballots.
Cannot emphasize that enough. We do not have fraud countermeasures. We have people who have got too many fingers on those ballots. We have equipment that is made by a foreign country that is 100% corruptible. And we've got a duplicitous organization, that would be our elected officials, who are permitting the sequestration of that instead of showing transparency and say, you know what, you don't have to give us a subpoena, you don't have to impound the machines. Tell you what, pick one, let's do a forensic audit. All I'm hearing is crickets, and that is unacceptable.
Sonny Borelli, an Arizona state Republican senator, pointed out how House Speaker Nancy Pelosi once said in 2017 that the election had been hijacked and hashtagged follow the facts. But now he says they want to shove the facts under the carpet. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
During the Arizona hearing, a cybersecurity expert told the panel that the Department of Homeland Security analyzed their research on U.S. voting system vulnerabilities. He claims that after analyzing the data, DHS determined the software had multiple vulnerabilities back in August.
Phil Waldron, a cybersecurity expert and retired Army colonel who specialized in information warfare, testified at the Arizona public hearing before GOP legislators. Waldron said he shared his team's extensive research into U.S. voting systems vulnerabilities with local Texas DHS personnel months before the election. Some of the vulnerabilities include the machines being connected to the internet and malware.
When I started working on this project in August, I called them up and said, you guys have got to come out and look at it. They did. They spent an initial 3 hours going through this data. At the end of that, one of them said, I think I need to go outside and throw up.
He said that DHS personnel also had multiple follow-ups and received over 600 gigabytes of data that had been accumulated over time.
Our team provided them over 200 gigabytes of confirmatory data, and they analyzed that. After they analyzed, there was a scan, a passive scan done. They conducted a limited scan and determined that there were vulnerabilities. They held numerous meetings with their folks, the CISA cyber side, and the INA, which is the Intelligence Assessment Division.
He also claimed he was told by local DHS personnel that members of CISA's election division would not participate in the internal meetings or briefings about the material his team provided. One of the GOP legislators noted that Chris Krebs, the former director of CISA, stated that the 2020 election was the most secure in history.
He stated, we're not connected to the internet. He stated no votes leave this country. This is all things he's stated publicly.
It's all on the CISA website, correct?
Right. So are you willing to say under oath that you have seen the connection to the internet? You have seen it go offshore to Germany, Frankfurt. Are these things that you have personally seen and can say that is not true?
Our white hat hackers, yes, they have that traffic in the packets.
So why would he make that kind of comment, do you think?
Either not knowing, believing the myth, or not wanting the truth to be known.
When Krebs was director of CISA, the agency, along with other members of the Election Infrastructure Government Coordinating Council, released a joint statement declaring the election as the most secure in American history. It stated there is no evidence that any voting system deleted or lost votes, changed votes, or was in any way compromised. The agency failed to mention that Dominion as well as Smartmatic are members of the council. Krebs was fired by President Trump earlier this month after the statement was released.
NTD live-streamed Monday's Arizona election hearing. Rally-goers watched it on a big screen outside the building. We caught up with a couple of them to hear what they have to say.
Trump supporters gathered outside the Arizona hearing on Monday. One rally-goer said he was happy NTD was live-streaming the hearing so people can get all the information. We asked him how important getting access to the truth is right now.
Oh my God! I mean, if they don't fix this, if they don't figure it out, we'll never have another legal election at all. It'll never happen again.
He says whoever took part in election fraud needs to be held accountable, and everything needs to be transparent.
It needs to be shown to the American people and to the world that we will back our elections and our elections are truthful.
We also spoke to Dr. Cordy Williams, who founded 1776 Forever Free. He says he started it to bring people together under the Constitution and to help protect Americans' freedom. He says the hearing is a step in the right direction.
I think it's amazing. I think it's needed. Now the question is how the legislature is going to respond, whether they're going to respond out of some political pork barreling, do what's right for the governor or their buddy, or whether they're going to respond to what the Voice of Patriots is saying. And what the Voice of Patriots and the evidence is saying is this was a fraudulent election.
He says we're fighting communism within our own government, and that it's no longer about Democrats versus Republicans.
What have we become as a country when we're almost like the book burning that occurred in World War II, where there's one narrative out there. Every American, whether they're liberal or Democrat, it's not liberalism anymore. It's either you're American or you're not. And every American out there needs to be scared for their life, their family, and what the future holds.
He says some election and government officials seem to be okay with fraudulent elections, and he is concerned about the direction the country is headed in.
And today they got more than 200.
Rally-goers in Arizona expressed their gratitude towards NTD for reporting on the hearing and bringing the truth to a wider audience.
That's going to be these two lovely people over here in the corner.
A Mark Zuckerberg-funded group is in the spotlight in election-related court cases. The group is accused of taking part in violating the Constitution in battleground states.
Post-election lawsuits accuse a group funded by Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg of helping violate the Constitution in key battleground states. Zuckerberg and his wife Priscilla Chan committed $400 million to the Center for Tech and Civic Life. The nonprofit gave money to over 2,500 local election offices across the country. According to lawsuits filed by the Thomas More Foundation's MSTAT project, the group gave over $6 million to officials in Fulton County, Georgia, and to 5 cities in Wisconsin. The Wisconsin filing says state law doesn't allow cities and counties